He is a rich and arrogant man. He lost his soon-to-be wife to another man. To avoid showing weakness. He has a bold plan that will surprise you. Before the story begins, comment below which city you are watching from. Enjoy the story. Everyone. Michael Carter is a millionaire who used to have everything he wanted. This time, he was staring at a wedding invitation from his ex. Michael Carter is a rich man who used to be in control of everything. Now he was getting a wedding invitation from his ex-fiancée, Stella, to another man. He felt great pain. He refused to show any weakness. He needed a plan to show everyone, especially Stella, that he didn't care. Suddenly, he noticed Chloe, his maid, who was organizing papers in the room. Chloe was young, beautiful, had a genuine air that would work perfectly for his plan. "Chloe, come here," he said in an authoritative tone. Chloe hesitated, put down what she was doing and came to him. She was doing and approached. "Do you need something, Mr. Carter?" she asked politely. "Yes. I need you to come with me to an event. It's personal." The proposal sounded absurd. Chloe looked at him with a mix of surprise and confusion. "Mr. Carter, I'm your maid. Not an escort. I'm not asking. Chloe. I'm offering an opportunity. You'll be well paid for this. All you need. The task was to accompany me. Look stunning. Talk a little." Chloe felt a lump in her throat. The idea was offensive. The amount Michael suggested was tempting. Chloe had worked for him for almost 2 years and knew how to handle his authoritative manner. Still, she never expected something like this. She thought about her mounting bills and her desire to start a course. "Why me?" she dared to ask. Michael gave her. Chloe felt a lump in her throat. She knew the amount Michael suggested was irresistible. She had worked for him for almost 2 years. She knew how to handle his authoritative manner. But she never expected something like this. She thought about her accumulating bills. She wanted to start a course. Why her? She dared to ask. Michael gave her a direct look. He said, "Because you're simple. Discreet. You're different from everyone who will be there." Chloe swallowed her pride. "All right. I'll do it," she said after a pause. "But just for one night." Michael smiled. Satisfied. "Excellent. We have a lot of work to do." Chloe left the room. She had a doubt in her mind. What consequences would come from accepting? Chloe was surprised by the deal she made with Michael. The next morning, she barely had time to understand what she had agreed to. Michael had already taken control of the situation. A luxury car arrived at her door to pick her up and take her directly to a fancy boutique in the city center. As soon as she entered, she was greeted by a stylist who seemed as scary as Michael. "Miss Chloe, we're going to transform you," he announced. The woman looked at the dresses, shoes, accessories that the other women brought. Chloe felt like she was on a reality show about fashion. Each piece of clothing seemed to show how different Michael's world was from hers. She tried to refuse the high heels. Michael ignored her. Michael arrived shortly after looking at everything closely. "She needs to look sophisticated. Not fake." Chloe said this while the stylist nodded. She crossed her arms, feeling uncomfortable. "Maybe I could choose something that makes me feel comfortable," she said. "Not about comfort," Michael replied, laughing. It's about impressing, Chloe said. Her response made her angry. Chloe knew there was no point in arguing. If she accepted this deal, she would have to play by Michael's rules. At least for now. After hours of adjustments and trials, Chloe looked at herself in the mirror. She was wearing an elegant black dress that made her look beautiful. She didn't recognize the woman in the mirror. For a moment, she felt powerful. Now this is it, Michael said, looking at her like he was looking at a completed work of art. All this seems a bit exaggerated, Chloe commented. Hesitant. Michael turned to her. Stella can't have any doubt that you are my choice. The name of the ex-money hung in the air, reminding everyone of the reason for the gathering. The next day, Michael hired a manners expert to teach Chloe how to act like a high-class woman. 4 hours. She was taught how to walk, smile, hold a champagne glass. The effort made her tired. Also annoyed her. I can hold a glass without help, she said. Michael shook his head in disbelief as he watched Chloe from afar. You're here to impress, not to be average. Chloe took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. Why is all this so important to you, Michael? She asked. You already have everything: money, power, respect. For a moment, he seemed disconcerted by the question. He soon regained his impassive expression. Some things can't be bought. Chloe, let's just say this is personal. The answer didn't convince her. She decided not to push further. It was clear there was more to the story than he was letting on. On the night before the wedding, Michael showed up with a more serious expression than usual. Tomorrow, all eyes will be on us. Leave no room for doubts or mistakes. Chloe looked at him. She was tired from all the training and Michael's constant demands. Why does this matter so much to you? Stella is just your ex. He gave a cold smile. Stella isn't just my ex. She's the only person who challenged me and thought she could replace me. Chloe realized that Michael was insecure. He worked hard to hide it. This wasn't just about Stella. It was about wounded pride. Control. The need to prove that no one could surpass him. So this is all just about making you feel good? She asked, challenging him. Michael narrowed his eyes. I don't expect you to understand, Chloe. Just stick to the plan. The tension between them was clear. Chloe chose not to prolong the argument. She knew that whatever happened, her patience was about to be tested like never before. On the morning of the wedding, Chloe got ready with the help of a team Michael had hired. Her hair was flawless, her makeup perfect. The dress looked like something out of a fairy tale when she saw herself in the mirror. Chloe knew that whatever happened, her patience was about to be tested like never before. On the morning of the wedding, Chloe got ready with the help of a team Michael had hired. Her hair was flawless, her makeup perfect. The dress looked like something out of a fairy tale. When she saw herself in the mirror for a moment, she forgot everything. The plan, Michael, Stella. She felt different, confident. Michael found her just before they left. He was dressed in an impeccable suit. For the first time, Chloe noticed that, despite his unbearable personality, he was striking. You look adequate, he said, trying to sound indifferent. Though. Chloe caught a faint smile on his lips. Thanks. I think, she replied sarcastically. In the car on the way to the wedding, silence filled the space between them. Chloe tried to hide her nervousness. She vowed to step into a world that wasn't hers. Next to a man who seemed incapable of feeling anything genuine, Chloe caught a faint smile on his lips. "Thanks. I think," she replied sarcastically. On the way to the wedding. The car was silent. Chloe tried to hide her nervousness. She promised to step into a world that wasn't hers with a man who seemed incapable of feeling anything genuine. When they arrived at the venue, Michael looked at her one last time before stepping out of the car. "Remember, Chloe. Today. You're my partner. Act like you were born for this." She took a deep breath and met his gaze. "I don't need to act. Michael. I just need to survive this." As soon as Chloe stepped out of the car, whispers began. All eyes on her. Chloe arrived at the wedding venue. She looked at her partner. Michael. One last time before stepping out of the car. "Remember, Chloe. Today you're my partner. Act like you were born for this." She took a deep breath and met Michael's gaze. "I don't need to act. Michael. I just need to survive this." As soon as Chloe stepped out of the car, all eyes were on her and Michael. The elegant black dress that hugged her curves and the confident posture she had practiced for hours seemed to work. Michael walked beside her with the same air of superiority he carried everywhere. This time, there was something more: pride. Chloe quickly realized she was in unfamiliar territory. The guests were a mix of powerful businessmen, socialites, a few minor celebrities. Stella, the bride, stood in the distance, laughing with a feeling of tightness in her chest. She wasn't afraid. She felt out of place. She was surrounded by people who lived in a completely different reality. "Don't let anyone intimidate you, Michael." Chloe arrived at the venue. Michael looked at her one last time before stepping out of the car. "Remember, Chloe. Today you're my partner. Act like you were born for this." She took a deep breath, meeting his gaze. "I don't need to act. Michael. I just need to survive this." As soon as Chloe stepped out of the car, people began whispering in her ear, as if reading her thoughts. Chloe kept her head high as they walked toward the reception. Soon, they were approached by an older man with a big smile. "Michael. I didn't expect to see you here. With such a charming companion." Michael shook the man's hand. "Of course I came. George. After all, Stella and I have history." The crowd's attention was on Chloe, who raised an eyebrow. She didn't say anything, just smiled politely. As dinner began, Chloe noticed that Michael was very good at talking about unimportant things while acting like he was better than everyone else. She, on the other hand, did her best to keep up. At one point, Stella finally approached them, her smile as sharp as her gleaming white dress. "Michael. What a surprise." She looked Chloe up and down. "Who's your friend?" Before Michael could respond, Chloe extended her hand. "Chloe. It's a pleasure to meet you. Stella." The bride seemed surprised by Chloe's confidence. Shook her hand. "The pleasure is mine. I didn't expect Michael to bring." Chloe arrived at the event. Michael looked at her one last time before getting out of the car. "Remember, Chloe. Today you're my partner. Act like you were born for this." She took a deep breath and met his gaze. "I don't need to act. Michael. I just need to survive this." As soon as Chloe stepped out of the car, whispers began. Someone so charming. Clearly irritated by Stella's tone, Michael interrupted. Chloe has been an amazing companion. She understands me in ways few people ever could. Stella narrowed her eyes, studying Chloe as if searching for cracks in her polished demeanor. How interesting. We should talk later. Chloe. I'd love to get to know more about you. Chloe stepped out of the car. Remember. Chloe. Today. You're my partner. Act like you were born for this. She took a deep breath and met Michael's gaze. I don't need to act. I just need to survive this. As soon as Chloe stepped out of the car, whispers began. All eyes on you. Chloe. She nodded. She knew that invitation wasn't as innocent as it seemed. As the night went on, Chloe felt more and more out of place. There were whispers. Glances. Some women clearly mocking her behind her back. She tried to focus on the promise she had made to herself, get through the night and leave with her dignity intact. Chloe arrived at the dance venue. Michael looked at her one last time before getting out of the car. Remember. Chloe. Today you're my partner. Act like you were born to dance. She took a deep breath and met his gaze. I don't need to act. Michael. I just need to survive this. As soon as Chloe stepped out of the car, whispers began. All eyes on you during the dance. Michael approached and extended his hand. You're doing well. Now. We need to dance. I don't want to dance. She hesitated. He was already pulling her onto the dance floor. Trust me, he said, holding her hand firmly. To her surprise, Michael danced elegantly, guiding her as if it were second nature. Chloe stumbled a few times. But Michael looked at her one last time before getting out of the car. Remember. Chloe. Today. You're my partner. Act like you were born for this. She took a deep breath and met his gaze. I don't need to act. Michael. I just need to survive this. As soon as Chloe stepped out of the car, whispers began. Soon. Everyone found their rhythm during the dance. She felt his eyes on her and a moment. She forgot everything around her. You're doing better than I expected. Michael commented, breaking the silence. Chloe laughed, trying to hide her nervousness. And you dance better than I imagined. Their conversation was interrupted when Stella approached. Michael. May I borrow your date for a moment? Michael seemed to hesitate. He nodded. Sure. Don't take too long. Chloe followed Stella to a more private corner. The bride had a calculated smile. Chloe knew the moment of truth had arrived. So. Chloe. Stella began crossing her arms. What's your story? Where did Michael find you? Sorry. I don't understand the question. Chloe responded. Staying calm. Oh. You understand. Stella stepped closer. He's always been good at choosing pieces on the board. You seem convenient. Chloe felt her blood boil. Didn't show it. I think Michael should answer for his choices. The direct response surprised Stella, who laughed softly. Well. He always liked challenges. Good luck. Dear, Chloe said, feeling uneasy as she returned to the table. Michael immediately noticed something was wrong. What did Stella say? He asked, looking concerned. Nothing I couldn't handle, Chloe replied. Not giving details. Later. During the speeches, Chloe noticed that Michael was uncomfortable. While everyone praised Stella and her knew he always liked challenges. Good luck. Dear Chloe. Chloe returned to the table feeling uneasy. She tried to hide it. Michael immediately noticed something was wrong. What did Stella say? He asked. Looking concerned. Nothing I couldn't handle. Chloe replied. Not giving details. Later. During the speeches, Chloe noticed that Michael was uncomfortable. While everyone praised Stella and her new husband, he seemed distant. His jaw tense. When their eyes met, Chloe gave a small smile, trying to lighten the moment. Michael looked away. He seemed less rigid. Let's play a game with those who only read the comments. Type chocolate in the comments. Only those who get this far will understand. Now, let's continue with the story. When the event finally ended, Michael and Chloe said goodbye to the guests. On the way to the car, he finally spoke up. You did better than I expected. He said. Thanks. I think. Chloe replied. No. I mean it. You, he said, pausing as if he didn't know how to finish the sentence. You were perfect. Chloe didn't know how to respond. She felt a strange warmth in her chest. Despite all of Michael's arrogance and control, there were moments like that which made her question who he really was. Before she could think more about it, she knew something had changed that night. The consequences were just beginning. Chloe woke up the next day. She was still thinking about the wedding. The night before had been very emotional. Although she had impressed everyone, there was something strange about Michael's behavior. He seemed to be stuck in a cycle of pride and insecurity that made him feel insecure. Especially when Stella was around. Michael, his part, wasted no time getting back to his routine. That morning, he was already in a meeting with potential investors. However, the rumors about his appearance with Chloe at the wedding spread quickly. Some guests, especially close friends of Stella, asked who that woman was. She took the chance to start spreading rumors. In a conversation with an important investor, she suggested that Chloe might be more than she seemed. Michael has always had a strange taste for allies. Is she there because of what she can do or because it's convenient for her? She said in a mean tone. The rumor spread. Soon one of the investors spoke to Michael directly during a lunch meeting. Your date at the wedding. Chloe. Right? She seems very determined. Something tells me she has ambitions beyond you. Michael. Already irritated. Stella's provocations made the man feel embarrassed. He knew Chloe wasn't dangerous. His own worries, combined with what he had heard that morning, made him react strongly. That afternoon, Chloe was called into Michael's office. As soon as she entered, she felt the uncomfortable atmosphere. He was sitting behind his desk, looking at some papers. His face looked angry. Do you want to talk? Chloe asked, trying to stay calm. Yes. We need to clear a few things up. She stepped closer, bracing herself for the worst. What's going on? Michael said. Some papers were on the table. These rumors about you talking to investors at the wedding. What exactly did you say to them? Chloe was stunned. Speaking to investors. I didn't talk to anyone except Stella and a few people who approached me. What exactly did you discuss? He pressed his voice, laced with suspicion. Chloe felt her blood boil. Discuss. Michael. All I did was act exactly as you asked. I was by your side the whole time. Except when Stella wanted to talk to me. He stood, slamming his hands on the table. It was Stella. Of course she tried something. And you fell right into her trap. Chloe crossed her arms. Shocked. You're blaming me for something I don't even know happened. You went too far, he said, ignoring her attempts to explain. I trusted you with a simple task. Apparently you can't help but draw more attention than you should. The accusation hit Chloe hard. Are you saying my presence hurt you? You're the one who put me in this position. Michael took a deep breath, trying to maintain control. His anger seemed to take over. I think it's best if we end this here. Consider yourself dismissed. Chloe. She stopped for a moment. Then said, Are you firing me? Yes. It's clear our dynamic no longer works. Those words were a slap in the face. Chloe felt her pride clash with indignation. She realized arguing with Michael would be pointless. Fine. If that's your decision, I'll accept. Michael. You're making a big mistake. She walked out of the room. Proud. She was devastated inside. It wasn't just about losing her job. It was about how he treated her. Like she was worthless. The next few days, Chloe was having a hard time. She was angry. She knew she needed to get better. Without her job, her savings wouldn't last long. Instead of feeling defeated, she decided to use the situation as motivation to improve her life. Chloe started working on a project she had been thinking about for a long time, making decorations that were good for the environment. Using materials that could be recycled and her creativity. She made a small collection of pieces that quickly got attention on social media. Within weeks, her work started to get more popular. She started getting a lot of orders. At the same time, Michael was facing more and more pressure at his company. Stella's presence and the rumors from the wedding made him feel insecure. He wouldn't admit it. He thought about Chloe often. There was something about her. He couldn't forget the determination in her eyes when she left the room. One morning, while reviewing, Michael was worried about Chloe. He felt insecure because of her. He also felt uneasy because of the rumors from the wedding. He didn't want to admit it. He thought about Chloe often. He thought about how determined she was when she left the room. One morning, while looking at financial reports, Michael received an unexpected email. It was an article on a design website that praised Chloe's work. He clicked the link and saw photos of her creations. The pieces were innovative, full of personality, reflected exactly who she was. For a moment, he felt a mix of admiration. Michael received an unexpected email. It was an article on a design website that praised Chloe's work. He clicked the link and saw photos of her creations. They were innovative, full of personality, exactly who she was. A moment. He felt admiration and unease. Chloe was thriving on her own without relying on anyone, while his own life felt increasingly out of control. That evening, Michael attended a business event but felt distant. During a conversation, he overheard someone mention Chloe's name again. It was as if no matter how much he tried, he couldn't escape her influence. He decided he needed to see her. Meanwhile, Chloe was working tirelessly to grow her business. The pain and wounded pride she'd felt after being dismissed by Michael had turned into motivation. She knew she didn't need his validation or anyone else's to succeed, but when she heard the sound of a message on her phone, Her heart. Chloe was working hard to grow her business. She had turned down Michael's attempt to talk to her. She was still worried about him. She knew she didn't need his approval to succeed. However, when she heard a message on her phone, her heart nearly stopped. It was from Michael. Chloe stared at the message for a few seconds, her heart racing. After weeks of silence, he wanted to talk to her. But why? What did he want after discarding her so easily? Determined not to let it affect her, Chloe ignored the message and focused back on her work. The small studio. Chloe stared at Michael's message for a few seconds, her heart racing. After weeks of silence, he wanted to talk. Why? What did he want after discarding her so easily? Determined not to let it affect her, Chloe ignored the message and focused back on her work. The small studio she had set up in her living room was beginning to feel too small. Orders for her sustainable decor pieces were growing daily. She could barely keep up with the demand. It was exhausting. It also made her feel like she was finally in control of her life. Meanwhile, Michael couldn't concentrate. Chloe had turned down his attempt. Chloe stared at Michael's message, her heart racing. After weeks of silence, he wanted to talk. Why? What did he want after discarding her so easily? Determined not to let it affect her, Chloe ignored the message and focused back on her work. The small studio, which she had reached out to, bothered him more than he wanted to admit. He tried to justify his growing interest in her as mere curiosity. After all, it wasn't common for someone he fired to leave his orbit and succeed on their own. But there was something more. He couldn't forget the look in her eyes during their last conversation when Chloe almost didn't respond. It was from Michael. Chloe stared at Michael's message for a few seconds, her heart racing. After weeks of silence, there he was, wanting to talk. Why? What did he want after discarding her so easily? Determined not to let it affect her, Chloe ignored the message and focused back on her work. The small studio she stood up to him with such courage and determination was a complete contrast to the people around him. Always flattering or interested only in what he could offer. Chloe was different. That intrigued him. Mr. Carter, his assistant, said, interrupting his thoughts. The investor you mentioned wants to schedule a meeting. Michael. Chloe stared at Michael's message, her heart racing. After weeks of silence, he wanted to talk. But why? What did he want after discarding her so easily? Determined not to let it affect her, Chloe ignored the message and focused back on her work. She nodded distractedly. Yes. Sure. Schedule it for tomorrow. His mind was still on Chloe. He decided he needed to see her face to face. Not to apologize, that wasn't something he did easily, but to understand how she had bounced back so quickly. The next morning, Chloe was organizing a new batch of orders when she heard a knock at the door. Chloe stared at Michael's message, her heart racing. After weeks of silence, there he was, wanting to talk. But why? What did he want after discarding her so easily? Determined not to let it affect her, Chloe ignored the message and focused back on her work. The small studio. The door. Her heart raced when she saw Michael on the other side. She took a deep breath before opening the door. "What are you doing here?" she asked, crossing her arms. Michael was as impeccable as always. There was something softer in his expression. "We need to talk," Chloe said. She let out a short, humorless laugh. You've made it clear what. Chloe stared at Michael's message, her heart racing. After weeks of silence, he was finally talking to her. But why? What did he want after discarding her so easily? Determined not to let it affect her, Chloe ignored the message and focused back on her work. You think of me, Michael. I don't see what we have to discuss. I was wrong, he said, surprising her. About a lot of things, Chloe said, raising an eyebrow. Is this an attempt to apologize? I hesitated but nodded. In a way. Yes. I was impulsive and unfair to you. Impulsive and unfair. She repeated, her voice dripping with sarcasm. You. Chloe stared at Michael's message, her heart racing. After weeks of silence, he wanted to talk. But why? What did he want after discarding her so easily? Determined not to let it affect her, Chloe ignored the message and focused back on her work. The small studio. She accused me of something I didn't do. Humiliated me and fired me without even listening to me. Michael lowered his gaze, clearly uncomfortable. I know I was a jerk. Chloe took a deep breath, trying to stay composed. Why are you here, Michael? Do you want to hire another pawn for your selfish plans? He shook his head, frustrated. No. That's. Chloe stared at Michael's message, her heart racing. After weeks of silence, he wanted to talk. But why? What did he want? After discarding her so easily, determined not to let it affect her, Chloe ignored the message and focused back on her work. Not it. I saw what you're doing, Chloe. Your work is amazing. I had to see you and. What? She interrupted. She wanted to take credit for his success now. Michael stepped back as if her words had struck him. No. I just wanted to say I admire what you've done. You got back up. Even after what I did. The sincerity in his voice disarmed her. Chloe stared at Michael's message, her heart racing. After weeks of silence, he wanted to talk. Why? What did he want after discarding her so easily? Determined not to let it affect her, Chloe ignored the message and focused back on her work. The small studio. A moment. She watched him, trying to understand what he wanted. Michael, the man who always seemed so confident, now stood before her with an expression she had never seen before: vulnerability. Admiration doesn't change anything, Michael said firmly. I built this on my own. Without anyone's help. You were just an obstacle. Chloe stared at Michael's message, her heart racing. After weeks of silence, he wanted to talk. But why? What did he want after discarding her so easily? Determined not to let it affect her, Chloe ignored the message and focused back on her work. I had to overcome, he nodded, accepting her words. I know. I hope one day you'll forgive me. Chloe didn't respond. She just closed the door, leaving Michael outside. In the following days, Chloe threw herself into her work, trying to forget the encounter with Michael. No matter how hard she tried, he kept invading her thoughts. Chloe was surprised by Michael's message. It had been weeks since they last spoke. Now he wanted to talk. But why? What did he want? After dismissing her so easily, he was determined not to let it affect her. Chloe ignored the message and focused back on her work. The small studio she worked in, The way he seemed genuinely sorry was something she hadn't expected. Michael, on the other hand, was determined to make amends. He started researching more about Chloe's work and realized the positive impact she was having with her creations. Inspired by her, he decided to use his influence to support sustainable projects. He had never thought about it before. During a meeting with a group of investors, he presented a plan to give money to small entrepreneurs with new ideas. "We need more projects that make a difference," he said, surprising even himself. At the same time, Chloe received an unexpected invitation to show her work at a local design event. It was her first opportunity to present her creations to a larger audience. She was nervous but excited. On the night of the event, while arranging her pieces, she felt a familiar presence behind her. She turned around and found Michael. "What are you doing here?" she asked, surprised. "I came to support you," he replied sincerely. "And before you say anything, I'm not here to take your spotlight." Chloe crossed her arms, still doubtful. "Because I believe in you," he said simply. The words, though unexpected, didn't seem empty. Chloe watched Michael for a moment, trying to find any sign that he had other intentions. All she saw was honesty. "You're persistent, Michael," she said. "You can say whatever you want. I'm not here to take your spotlight." Chloe crossed her arms, still doubtful. "Because I believe in you," he said simply. The words, though unexpected, didn't seem empty. Chloe watched Michael for a moment, trying to find any sign that he had other intentions. But all she saw was honesty. "You're persistent, Michael," she said. Finally. "But I still don't know if I can trust you." He gave a small smile. "I don't expect you to trust me. I just hope for a chance to show that I can be better." The event was a success. Chloe received compliments and proposals from new clients. Although reluctant, she couldn't deny that Michael's presence helped draw attention to. As the night came to an end, he approached her again. "If you ever need help expanding your business, know that I'm willing to invest," he said. Chloe shook her head. "I don't need your money, Michael. If I ever accept your help, it'll be because I trust you, not because I depend on it." Michael nodded, respecting her decision. "Then I'll work to earn your trust." For the first time, Chloe saw something different in Michael. Maybe he was genuinely changing. The showcase was a milestone in Chloe's life. Not just because of the opportunities it brought. Also because it was the first time she felt the impact of her work beyond social media, yet she was confused by his unexpected support. She tried not to think about him. He seemed determined to be part of her journey again and the following days. Chloe was busy with new orders and invitations to collaborate with local designers. Still, the encounter with Michael at the event lingered in her mind. He had shown a kindness she'd never seen before. But she knew that with Michael, kindness alone wasn't enough to erase the past while working on a new collection. Her phone rang. It was an unknown number. She answered anyway. "Hello Chloe. This is Sarah from Urban Deco Designs. We'd like to invite you to lead a project in collaboration with a high-profile company. Your work is exactly what we're looking for." Chloe could hardly believe it. Urban Deco Designs was one of the top sustainable design firms known for partnerships with major brands. "I'd love to. Which company is it?" "It's Carter Enterprises." The name made her heart stop for a moment. Of course it was. The irony was almost cruel. "I need to think about it," she replied, trying to sound professional. We understand. This could be a great opportunity for you to expand your reach. Please consider it and let me know by tomorrow. Chloe hung up, trying to process the situation. Working with Michael meant facing everything she was trying to move past. But Chloe saw something different in Michael. Maybe he was genuinely changing. The showcase was a big moment in Chloe's life. It brought new opportunities. It was the first time she felt the impact of her work outside of social media. Michael's opportunity was too good to ignore. The next morning, Chloe made her decision. She sent Sarah a message confirming her participation. A few hours later, she received project details and a request for a meeting at Carter Enterprises headquarters. When she arrived at the towering building, she felt a mix of nerves and determination. Chloe saw something different in Michael. Maybe he was genuinely changing. The showcase was a big moment in Chloe's life. It brought new opportunities. It was the first time she felt the impact of her work outside of social media. Michael wasn't there to rekindle their personal relationship. He was there as a professional. Chloe took the elevator, her heart racing. An assistant greeted her. The assistant led her to the meeting room. As soon as she walked in, she saw Michael. He was standing by a table covered with reports. His gaze went straight to Chloe. A moment. He looked surprised. Then he smiled and said, "Welcome, Chloe." She maintained her composure and replied, "I'm here for the project." Michael nodded, showing that he respected her boundaries. "Of course. I want you to see this as a partnership. Your ideas will be critical." The meeting continued objectively. Michael presented the project, a sustainable corporate building designed to minimize environmental impact. Chloe took notes, keeping the interaction professional. Though she noticed Michael went out of his way to highlight her input. Something he'd never done before. After the meeting, he walked her to the exit. "Thank you for agreeing to work with us," he said with genuine gratitude. Chloe was determined to work hard and earn Michael's trust. The first time, she saw something different in him. Maybe he was genuinely changing. The showcase was a big moment in Chloe's life. It wasn't just because of the opportunities it brought. Also because it was the first time she felt the impact of her work outside of social media. Michael's sincerity. "I'm here because the project matters," Chloe replied. "But that doesn't change the past." Michael sighed, seeming to understand. "I know. I hope that in time, we can start fresh." Chloe didn't respond. She simply nodded and left, determined to keep her focus on the work. In the days that followed, Chloe threw herself into the project. Chloe saw something different in Michael. Maybe he was genuinely changing. The showcase was a big moment in Chloe's life. It brought new opportunities. It also showed how her work had an impact outside of social media. Michael's project. Chloe led the creative team. She was determined. Her hard work was noticed. She talked to Michael a lot. They were always professional. He seemed different. He was more collaborative, less bossy. One day, during a meeting, Chloe shared a bold idea for the interior design. One of the investors had a concern. "This seems risky. Why should we trust this approach?" Before Chloe could answer, Michael spoke up. "Because I trust her work. Chloe has the experience and vision. If she believes this is the best direction for the project, I support it." Michael's public endorsement caught Chloe off guard. She didn't show it. She calmly This seems risky. Why should we trust this approach? Before Chloe could answer, Michael spoke up. Because I trust her work. Chloe has the experience and vision. If she believes this is the best direction for the project, I support it. Michael's public endorsement caught Chloe off guard. She didn't show it. She calmly continued explaining her proposal, eventually winning the investors' approval. After the meeting, she confronted Michael. Why did you do that? Because it was the right thing to do. He replied. As if it were obvious. And since when do you care about what's right? Chloe retorted, her tone challenging. Michael gave a small smile. Chloe didn't know how to respond. Since I realized I was wrong about a lot of things. Why did you do that? Chloe asked. Because it was the right thing to do, he replied. And since when do you care about what's right? Chloe retorted. Since I realized I was wrong about a lot of things. Michael said, smiling. As the project progressed, their interactions began to change. Michael was more open. Chloe, though reluctant, started to see a side of him she never imagined existed. He surprised her with small gestures. Chloe was surprised by how Michael acted. He was more open. He did things like bring her coffee to meetings and praise her work in front of the team. One afternoon, after a long day of work, Michael invited her to dinner. He said it wasn't a business meeting. He noticed that Chloe seemed hesitant. He said it was just a conversation between two people. Chloe thought for a moment before accepting. At the restaurant, they started talking. One afternoon, after a long day of work, Michael invited her to dinner. He said it was just a conversation between two people. Not a professional meeting. Chloe thought about it for a moment before accepting. At the restaurant, they talked about his childhood. His challenges in taking over the company. Even his regrets. Chloe never expected to hear that. I always thought success was everything, he said thoughtfully. But lately I've realized it might not be enough. Success means nothing if you have no one to share it with. Chloe replied without thinking. Michael looked at her, surprised by the depth of her words. You're right, he said. The exchange of looks between them was intense. Chloe looked away, trying to keep her emotional distance. It was still too early to let her guard down. The next day, Chloe was surprised by some news. One of her decorator's pieces used in the project had been featured in a design magazine. Michael made sure to praise her publicly, which made her more well known. However, Chloe realized that, despite the progress, she still couldn't fully trust Michael. His change seemed real. Part of her still wondered if it was just another fake appearance. As the project continued, Chloe knew the biggest challenge was yet to come, deciding if Michael truly deserved a second chance. Chloe stood at the center of the conference room, presenting the progress of her ideas for the sustainable building. The project had advanced remarkably. Chloe felt more confident. It was clear that she had earned money from the team and investors. Every detail she proposed was praised. Even those who had initially underestimated her were convinced of her vision. Michael, sitting at the head of the table, watched her silently. He rarely interfered in Chloe's presentations now. He made sure to show support. His eyes were fixed on her. Not just because she was professional. There was more to it. When the meeting ended, Chloe felt Michael's familiar presence approaching. You're doing an amazing job, he said as they walked down the hallway. Thank you, she replied, keeping her tone neutral. Michael hesitated before continuing. I've been thinking a lot about what you said that night about success and who you share it with. Chloe stopped turning to face him. Michael. I'm here to work. Don't mix things up. He shook his head as if trying to control something he really wanted to say. Right. Someday maybe you'll understand what I'm trying to say. Chloe didn't respond. She just walked away, ignoring the strange feeling his words provoked. As the project neared its final stage, Chloe started to notice something unusual in the financial reports. Some budget decisions seemed contradictory to the sustainability message Michael emphasized so much. It was something she could ignore. That same afternoon, she went directly to his office. Michael. Can we talk? He looked up from his computer, surprised by her direct tone. Sure. What's going on? Chloe placed the papers on his desk. These numbers don't make sense. How can we talk about sustainability when we're cutting essential costs? Michael took the reports and looked at them without saying anything. I'll check this with the finance department, he said. Chloe thought he sounded unsure. You knew about this, didn't you? She asked, sounding frustrated. He put down the papers and took a deep breath. This wasn't an easy decision. Chloe. We need to. Chloe was shocked. Balance the budget. Michael looked uncomfortable. You're sacrificing the integrity of the project to please investors. It's not that simple. I have responsibilities and principles. Michael replied. And I have responsibilities and principles. Chloe retorted firmly. If you don't believe in what you're doing, then this project will never be genuine. Michael remained silent, visibly shaken by her words. That night, Chloe decided she needed answers. Michael had always been a complicated man. There was something deeper about his behavior recently. She started looking into the background of some companies involved in the project and found that most had she had a strong connection to Michael and his father. The next day, she spoke with him again. Michael. Why are you so interested in this project? It's not just about being eco-friendly, is it? He looked away as if he didn't want to answer the question. It doesn't matter now. It does, Chloe insisted. If you want my trust, you have to be honest with me. Michael finally agreed, closing his eyes for a moment before speaking. This project is a way to make up for what my father did. He always prioritized profit above everything else. And he looked away as if he didn't want to answer the question. It doesn't matter now. It does. Chloe insisted. If you want my trust, you need to be honest with me. Michael finally agreed, closing his eyes for a moment before speaking. This project is a way to make up for what my father did. He always prioritized profit above everything else. It hurt a lot of people. I grew up thinking that was the only way. I don't want to repeat his mistakes. Chloe listened in silence, absorbing his words. For the first time, she saw Michael as someone vulnerable. Someone battling his own past. Then do things differently. She finally said. Show that you can be better. In the days that followed, Michael took steps to adjust the budget. Even though he knew it might deter some investors, Chloe noticed he was genuinely trying to change. There was still a barrier she couldn't break through. Let's have a little fun with the readers in the comments. Type milkshake if you've made it this far for now. Let's get back to. Michael made changes to the budget, even though he knew it might upset some investors. Chloe saw that he was trying to change. There was still something stopping them from moving forward. Let's have some fun with the readers in the comments. Type milkshake if you've made it this far. Now, let's get back to the story. As they worked together, the two of them started sharing more than just project ideas. Chloe talked about her simple childhood, the challenges of supporting her family, her dream of using her creativity to make a difference. Michael, in turn, spoke about the pressure of growing up in his father's shadow and the failure of the story. As they worked together, the two began sharing more than just project ideas. Chloe opened up about her humble childhood, the challenges of supporting her family, her dream of using her creativity to make a meaningful impact. Michael, in turn, spoke about the pressure of growing up in his father's shadow, the failure of his relationship with Stella, how meeting Chloe had shifted his perspective on many things. You made me realize that success means nothing if you lose the people who truly matter, he admitted during a break from work. Chloe's heart raced. She kept her expression neutral. Michael, it takes time. It's not enough to say you'll. You have to prove it. He nodded in agreement. I will. At an event to show how the project was coming along, Chloe was approached by Stella, who seemed to attend every event to cross paths with Michael. Looks like you've gained more than just a job, Stella said with a sly smile. Chloe took a deep breath, staying calm. I've worked hard to earn my place, Stella. Maybe you should try doing the same. Stella laughed as if Chloe's response amused her. Michael can be charming when he wants to be. In the end, he always reverts to what he is, a man driven by his ego. Good luck trying to change that. Chloe didn't respond. Stella's words unsettled her. No matter how much Michael was making an effort, Chloe was still unsure of his intentions. She felt uneasy. Her doubts deepened when Michael approached her shortly afterward. Are you okay? He asked. Stella has a talent for being unpleasant, Chloe replied. Trying to play it off, Michael sighed. Don't let her get to you. She's always looking for ways to hurt me. Now she thinks. Michael's words about Chloe were confusing. Chloe was trying to trust him. She was focused on her work. She couldn't stop thinking about what he had said. He said that she was important to him. Chloe wasn't sure she could trust that. She wanted to believe him. She was still careful. As time went on, Chloe learned more about Michael's relationship with Stella and how it had affected his view of success. He said that success doesn't matter if you lose the people who are important to you. Chloe was nervous. She didn't show it. Michael said that he would target Chloe. Chloe didn't believe him. She looked at him. He looked back at her. Chloe thought that he was important to her. She wasn't sure why. Michael didn't say anything for a moment. Then he answered her. He said that Chloe was important to him. His words weren't complicated. They were important. Chloe didn't know what to say. Michael seemed like he wanted to make his feelings clear. She wasn't sure what to do. Relationship with Stella and how meeting Chloe had changed his mind about many things. You made me realize that success means nothing if you lose the people who truly matter, he admitted during a break from work. Chloe's heart raced. She kept her expression neutral. Michael change takes time. It's not enough to say you'll be ready to trust him yet. In the following days, Chloe focused on her work. Michael's words stayed with her. He had been clear, she was important to him. While his intentions seemed genuine, Chloe knew she couldn't rely on words alone. She wanted to believe him. Her instincts kept her cautious. As the project progressed. A major Chloe and Michael's relationship. How meeting Chloe had changed Michael's perspective on many things. You made me realize that success means nothing if you lose the people who truly matter. He admitted during a break from work. Chloe's heart raced. She kept her expression neutral. Michael. It's not enough to say you'll. The presentation event was scheduled to bring together investors, partners, industry leaders. It was a crucial moment to solidify Chloe's hard work and secure the financial backing needed for the final phase. She prepared meticulously, knowing the night would be pivotal. Michael, meanwhile, was closer than ever. He not only trusted her decisions, also supported her in every detail. At times, Chloe caught him looking at her during meetings. She avoided addressing it. Their balance was delicate. Chloe knew that one wrong step could destabilize everything. On the night of the event, Chloe arrived at the stunning venue in a simple yet elegant dress that reflected the relationship with Stella. Chloe and Stella met. Chloe realized that success is meaningless if you lose the people who truly matter. The break from work. Chloe's heart raced. She kept her expression neutral. Michael's change. It's not enough to say you'll. Her personality. The guests were excited to see the presentation. She struggled to stay calm as she mentally reviewed the details. Michael's arrival. He arrived shortly after. Impeccably dressed as always. With a more relaxed demeanor than usual. He approached Chloe as soon as he saw her. "You look amazing," he said in a tone that seemed to. Michael and Stella's relationship and how Chloe's arrival changed Michael's outlook on life. "You made me realize that success means nothing if you lose the people who truly matter," he admitted during a break from work. Chloe's heart raced. She kept her expression neutral. Michael. It's going to take time. It's not enough to say you'll slip from his usual composure. "Thank you," she replied, trying to keep the conversation casual. Before they could continue, Stella appeared with a smile that barely hid her intent to provoke. "Chloe. What a pleasant surprise," she said, her eyes scanning the room. "It seems you've really found your place here." "I worked hard for it." Chloe. Chloe and Stella's relationship. How meeting Chloe had changed Michael's views on many things. "You made me realize that success means nothing if you lose the people who truly matter," he admitted during a break from work. Chloe's heart raced. She kept her expression neutral. Michael. It's not enough to say you'll reply. Refusing to be intimidated. Stella turned to Michael. "And you?" Michael. "Still trying to prove something to me?" Michael stayed calm. His tone was firm. "Stella. I have nothing to prove to you. Chloe doesn't need your approval to be here." Chloe watched the exchange with a mix of satisfaction and discomfort. Michael had taken. About Stella and Chloe. Meeting Chloe made him see things differently. "You realize that success doesn't matter if you lose the people who truly matter," he admitted during a break from work. Chloe's heart raced. She kept her expression neutral. Michael's change takes time. It's not enough to say you'll be on her side publicly. The confrontation with Stella seemed to bring up old problems. As the event continued, Chloe presented her vision for the final phase of the project. The room fell silent as she explained how every detail was designed to reflect the values of sustainability and innovation. When she finished, the audience erupted. Applause followed Michael as he stood up first, with the investors and partners following behind. Chloe felt proud. She also knew the night was far from over. During the cocktail hour after the presentation, Stella tried to take center stage again. This time, she approached one of the investors and started talking to him. Michael was the first to stand, followed by the investors and partners. Chloe felt a surge of pride. She also knew the night was far from over. During the cocktail hour following the presentation, Stella once again tried to steal the spotlight. This time, however, she approached one of the investors and began making insinuations about Michael's past. He's always been good at charming people. Commitment has never been his strong suit, she said in a casual tone, loud enough for Chloe to hear. Chloe decided not to intervene. She knew Michael didn't need her defense. Stella's words seemed to plant doubt in the minds of some investors. Shortly after, one of the men approached Michael Carter. It seems like you're changing your approach. The public support for Chloe was impressive, considering your history. Is this really sincere? Michael narrowed his eyes, clearly irritated. My support for Chloe is based on her talent and work. If that's not enough to convince you, you may want to reconsider our partnerships. Michael's firm tone silenced the man. Chloe, watching from a distance, saw that it had affected Michael more than he let on. When the night ended, Chloe found Michael outside looking at the horizon with a tired expression. It was an intense night, she said. Approaching. That's an. Maybe it's time to think again about how we work together. Michael's serious tone made the man stop talking. Chloe, watching from a distance, saw that it had upset Michael more than he let on. When the night ended, Chloe found Michael outside looking at the horizon with a tired face. It was a very intense night, she said. That's an understatement. He replied with a small smile. You were amazing. Thank you. But what Stella said didn't help at all. Michael sighed, his shoulders heavy. Stella knows how to hit where it hurts. She can't stand the idea that I'm trying to change. Chloe hesitated before responding. And are you? Michael looked at her, his expression serious. I am. Not for her. There was a moment of silence between them before Michael continued. Chloe, when I fired you, I thought I was protecting myself. All I did was push away the only person who made me question who I really was. You showed me that there's a different way. His words were full of emotion. Chloe felt her own. You were amazing. Chloe replied, her voice filled with gratitude. Thank you. But what Stella said didn't help at all. Michael sighed, his shoulders heavy with emotion. Stella knows how to hit where it hurts. She can't stand the idea that I'm trying to change. Chloe hesitated before responding, and are you? Barriers begin to weaken, Michael said, his expression serious. Change isn't just about words, it's about actions. Then let me show you. His voice was firm. Chloe didn't respond immediately. Part of her wanted to believe him. Another part was still stuck in the past. We'll see, she said. Finally. In the days that followed, the atmosphere at the company changed. Michael started implementing bolder measures, like partnerships with sustainable organizations and cutting ties with suppliers that didn't align with the project's values. Chloe saw that he was indeed trying to turn his words into actions. One afternoon, while they were reviewing the final details of the presentation, Michael did something that caught her by surprise. Chloe, I need you to know that no matter what happens between us, this project was only possible because of you. She looked at him, trying to find any hint of insincerity in his words. Found none. Thank you, she replied genuinely. Michael hesitated before continuing. I know there's still a lot I need to prove to you. If you'll let me. I want to try. Chloe knew Michael's intentions seemed genuine. Something still held her back. Maybe it was the fear of getting hurt again. Maybe it was just caution. The final days of the project were a mix of excitement and exhaustion for Chloe. She had dedicated months to the work. That's not enough. He replied with a slight smile. You were incredible. Thank you. Stella's words didn't help at all. Michael sighed, his shoulders heavy. Stella knows how to make me feel bad. She can't stand the idea that I'm trying to change. Chloe hesitated before responding. And are you? Michael looked at her, his expression serious. Now, with the launch approaching, she realized it wasn't just a professional milestone, it was a personal turning point. Michael had changed. At least he seemed to have. Yet Chloe wasn't sure she was ready to trust him again. The launch was set to be a grand event, covered by the media and attended by international investors. You were amazing. Chloe replied with a small smile. Thank you. But what Stella said didn't help at all. Michael sighed, his shoulders heavy. Stella knows how to hit where it hurts. She can't stand the idea that I'm trying to change. Chloe hesitated before responding. And tea industry figures. Michael looked at her, his expression serious. As usual, Michael took on the role of host. He insisted that Chloe be by his side. You're the soul of this project, he said during one of their final meetings. I want everyone to know that, Chloe agreed. With one condition, as long as it's clear that my role here was earned on merit. I'm not here to be associated with your past or your mistakes. Michael asked, nodding in understanding. Agreed. You've earned this entirely on your own. On the morning of the event, Chloe arrived early to check the final details. The building looked flawless, reflecting everything she had envisioned: elegance, functionality, sustainability. As she walked through, you were amazing, Chloe said, her voice a little shaky. Thank you. Michael let out a sigh, his shoulders sagging. Stella knows how to get to me. She can't stand the idea that I'm trying to change. Chloe paused for a moment before responding. Are you? Michael asked, his expression serious. She felt a mix of pride and anxiety. Michael arrived shortly after, dressed impeccably in a suit. He seemed confident. There was something else in his expression, a hint of vulnerability. Chloe couldn't ignore it. Nervous? He asked as he approached. A little, she admitted. You always. He replied with a smile. You're here. Which makes it easier. Chloe looked away, trying to avoid the weight of his words. There was something different about Michael that day, a lightness she hadn't seen before. The event began with speeches and presentations highlighting the project's innovative aspects. Chloe was invited to the stage to share her vision and how. You were amazing. He replied with a small smile. Thank you. Stella's words didn't help at all. Michael sighed, his shoulders heavy. Stella knows how to hit where it hurts. She can't stand the idea that I'm trying to change Chloe. Chloe hesitated before responding. And are you? Michael looked at her, his expression serious. She had turned ideas into reality. She was nervous, As she glanced at the audience, she saw Michael in the front row. His face filled with genuine pride. This project isn't just about sustainability, she said, concluding her speech. It's about showing that when we work together and believe in the impact we can make, we can create something truly meaningful. The audience clapped. Chloe looked at Michael. After the presentations, a reception was held. Chloe found herself surrounded by people eager to learn more about her work. She answered every question with patience. Her attention kept drifting to Michael, who was, across the room, speaking with a group of investors. When she finally had a moment alone, Stella appeared. As usual. At the worst possible time. Well, Chloe, it seems you've managed to impress. Congratulations. Thank you, Chloe replied, keeping her cool. But tell me, do you really think Michael has changed? Is he still playing the... Across the room, Chloe was speaking with a group of investors. When she finally had a moment alone, Stella appeared. As usual. At the worst possible time. Well, Chloe, it seems you've managed to impress. Congratulations. Thank you, Chloe replied, keeping her composure. But tell me, do you really think Michael has changed? Is he still playing the same game? Chloe didn't answer right away. There was something calculated about Stella's tone, as if she wanted to sow doubt. It's not your judgment that matters, Chloe. It's mine. Stella gave a quiet laugh but didn't reply. She simply walked away, leaving Chloe alone with her thoughts. Shortly after, Michael approached. It was the same game. Chloe didn't answer right away. Stella's tone made Chloe feel uneasy. It's not your judgment that matters, Chloe said. It's mine. Stella laughed quietly but didn't reply. She simply walked away, leaving Chloe alone with her thoughts. Shortly after, Michael approached. Is Stella trying to poison your thoughts again? Chloe sighed. No. She just made me realize I still have doubts. Michael was silent for a moment before responding. I understand. Honestly, I'd have doubts too if I were in your place. Chloe looked at him, surprised by his honesty. Have you really changed, Michael? Is this just another attempt to manipulate everything around you? I have changed, he said firmly, but I don't expect you to believe me just because I say so. That I want to prove it over time. Chloe didn't reply, instead looking away as she tried to sort through her feelings. Chloe's discomfort grew. There was something she couldn't quite put her finger on it. She felt uneasy when the event ended. Michael walked her to the exit. Thank you for everything, Chloe, he said, his voice sincere. This project wouldn't have been possible without you. She nodded. His words didn't ease her concerns. It was good work, Michael, she said. But that doesn't. Everything's fine now, right? He said, smiling. His eyes showed sadness. Chloe didn't answer. She looked away, trying to sort through her feelings. She didn't know if she could believe him. In the days that followed, Chloe tried to return to her routine. She couldn't stop thinking about Michael. He was keeping his promises. His actions showed he was trying to be better. Chloe still struggled with the fear of letting herself. One morning, Chloe received an unexpected message from Michael. I want you to see something. Can you come to the building today? Chloe hesitated before responding. Her curiosity won. When she arrived, Michael greeted her in the lobby. He seemed nervous. Something rare to see. What do you want to show me? Chloe asked, crossing her arms. Her arms come with me, he said, leading her to the building's terrace. When they arrived, Chloe was speechless. The space had been transformed into a lush garden with native plants and a relaxation area that looked like something out of a dream. That I wanted this project to have something special, Michael explained. I have changed, he said firmly. But I don't expect you to believe me just because I say so. I want to prove it over time. Chloe didn't reply. Instead, she looked away, trying to sort through her feelings. She felt uncomfortable. There was something she couldn't represent what she'd learned working with him. Chloe turned to him, still absorbing what she saw. This is amazing, Michael, she said. Thank you. This isn't just about the project. It's about you. Chloe felt her heart race. I know I still have a long way to go, Michael said, interrupting her. But I want to walk this path with you. If you'll let. I have changed, he said firmly. But I don't expect you to believe me just because I say so. I want to prove it over time. Chloe didn't reply. Instead, she looked away, trying to sort through her feelings. Chloe felt more and more uncomfortable. There was something she couldn't tell him. His words were direct, without the calculated tone she feared. Chloe took a deep breath, feeling her internal barriers begin to crumble. Maybe I can give it a chance, she said finally. But that doesn't mean it will be easy. Michael smiled. A genuine smile full of hope. Nothing worthwhile is easy, Chloe said. The partnership between Chloe and Michael. I have changed, Michael said firmly. But I don't expect you to believe me just because I say so. I want to prove it over time. Chloe didn't reply. Instead, she looked away, trying to sort through her feelings. Chloe grew more and more uncomfortable. There was something she couldn't share. Michael seemed stronger than ever. Chloe remained cautious. That moment on the terrace had been symbolic. She knew trust couldn't be rebuilt in a single day. Michael, on the other hand, seemed determined to show that his transformation was genuine. The following weeks were intense. The project was gaining more recognition. Chloe was constantly invited to events, interviews, new partnerships. Michael made sure that all the credit went to her, highlighting her talent and dedication whenever he had the chance. However, something still bothered her. Michael was trying too hard, as if he were trying to make up for years of mistakes in just a few weeks later. Chloe was unsure if Michael's change was real or just a ploy to impress her. She didn't know if she could believe him. One day, Michael asked Chloe to go with him to a meeting with new investors. I don't want to present anything without you, he said. Chloe hesitated. She agreed to go. The meeting took place in an elegant restaurant. The investors were. I'm not just some discovery. I built my own path, Chloe said, feeling uncomfortable. Michael, I appreciate what you're trying to do. I want to make something clear, my work and I've changed, he said firmly. But I don't expect you to believe me just because I say so. I want to prove it over time. Chloe didn't reply, instead looking away as she tried to sort through her feelings. Chloe grew more uncomfortable. There are influential people interested in supporting more sustainable projects. Chloe presented her ideas confidently while Michael watched her with admiration. When the meeting ended, One of the investors made a comment that caught Chloe by surprise. "Michael. You found a real gem. I don't see this passion and authenticity often." "Michael." I smiled. "Yes. She's unique." The compliment was genuine. Chloe felt uncomfortable. She didn't want to be seen as Michael's discovery. As someone who had built her own path. Later. When they were in the car. Chloe finally spoke. "Michael. I appreciate what you're trying to do. I want to make something clear, my work and my accomplishments aren't linked to you." Michael looked surprised but nodded quickly. "I understand. I'll make sure everyone knows that." Chloe noticed he was taking her comments seriously. Which made her feel more at ease. As they focused on finishing the project. An unexpected problem arose. One of the main suppliers was delaying the delivery of materials. Putting the opening of a new part of the building at risk. Michael, determined to solve the issue, called an emergency meeting with the whole team. "We can't let this delay our deadline," he said firmly. "Chloe, do you have any ideas on how to get around this?" Chloe analyzed the reports and suggested an alternative. Michael chose a solution that involved a smaller, more reliable local supplier. It might not have been the cheapest option. It was the most efficient. Michael didn't hesitate to make it happen. "We'll deal with the additional cost later." The decision was risky. It showed that Michael was prioritizing the quality and values of the project over profits. Something Chloe noticed with admiration. After the crisis, Chloe began to see a more consistent change in Michael. He was less concerned with his public image and more focused on ensuring the project's success. Small gestures also demonstrated his transformation. He gave sincere compliments to the team. Made ethical decisions. Even showed moments of selflessness. Michael admitted his own mistakes. One evening, while they were reviewing the final details of the project, he confessed, "Working with you has made me realize something important. I spent years trying to meet everyone else's expectations. You never expected anything from me. You just wanted me to be honest with myself." Chloe looked at him. Curious. "What did I spend years trying to meet?" she asked. "My father's. My investors. Even Stella's expectations. You just wanted me to be honest with myself." Michael nodded with a small smile. The final inauguration of the project was marked by an event that brought together influential figures from various sectors. "Are you being honest now?" Chloe remained silent, absorbing his words. Chloe and Michael stood together, happy with what they had done. People were complimenting them. They felt good. The night was perfect. Chloe felt like something was missing. During the event, Michael took her to a quieter corner. "Chloe, I have something to tell you. I've been waiting for the right moment." She looked at him. She looked at him. Confused. "What is it?" Michael took a deep breath before speaking. "That I don't know where I'd be without you, this project. My growth. It all started because you came into my life and made me see the world differently." Chloe felt her heart race. "Michael, I don't think I know. I still need to earn your trust." That he interrupted. "But more than." Michael paused. Then said, "I don't know where I'd be without you. This project. My growth. It all started because you came into my life and made me see the world differently." Chloe said, her heart racing. "Michael, I don't think I know. I still need to earn your trust. But more than that. I want you to know how much I admire you. Not just as a professional. As a person," he said. Chloe was speechless. His words felt sincere. She still wasn't sure if she was ready to let go of her mistrust. When the event ended, Michael walked her to her car. "Thank you for standing by my side tonight," he said. Chloe smiled. A shy but. Chloe was puzzled. "What is it?" Michael took a deep breath before speaking. "I don't know where I'd be without you. This project. My growth. It all started because you came into my life and made me see the world differently." Chloe felt her heart race. "Michael. I don't think I still need to earn your trust. You're doing well. It's not over yet." He chuckled softly. "I know." As the car drove away, Chloe glanced at Michael's reflection in the window and realized he truly was trying to change. The first time, she felt that maybe she could believe in him. In the days that followed, Michael continued to surprise her. Chloe was surprised. "What is it?" Michael took a deep breath before speaking. "I don't know where I'd be without you. This project. My growth. It all started because you came into my life and made me see the world differently." Chloe felt her heart race. "Michael. I don't think I know. I still need to earn your trust." He interrupted. "But more than." He got involved in social projects. Supported young entrepreneurs. Funded sustainable initiatives. Chloe could see he was doing it out of genuine belief. Not just to impress her. One afternoon, while working in her studio, she received a message from Michael. "Come to the building. I want to show you something." When she arrived, he found Michael on the rooftop. Michael had created a mural with images and stories of people whose lives had been positively impacted by the project. "I thought this would be a good way to remember why we started this," Michael explained. Chloe's eyes welled up. "It's amazing." "Michael," she said. "Just like." Chloe felt her heart race. "Michael. I don't think I know. I still need to earn your trust." As Chloe gazed at the mural, she realized she might finally be ready to trust him again. The days following the project's final event were a mix of calm and reflection for Chloe. The building was officially operational, earning praise from experts in architecture and sustainable design. Her name was now recognized not only locally but also internationally. Something she'd never imagined possible. Michael, on the other hand, seemed more distant. He was focused on new projects and busy with meetings to expand his business. Yet Chloe knew he was intentionally giving her space to make her own decisions. While working in her studio, Chloe received an unexpected. Chloe was surprised. "What is it?" "I don't know where I'd be without you. This project. My growth. It all started because you came into my life and made me see the world differently." Chloe felt her heart race. "Michael. I don't think I know. I still need to earn your trust." But more than an invitation to speak at an international conference on sustainable design, the opportunity was too significant to pass up. It meant being away for a few weeks. Before confirming her attendance, she decided to talk to Michael. She walked through the reception of Carter Enterprises and went straight to his office. He seemed Chloe was surprised to see him. "What a surprise. Is everything okay?" "Yes. I wanted to tell you something before making a decision." Michael set his papers aside and gestured for her to continue. "What's on your mind?" "I've been invited to an international conference. It's a chance to expand my brand. I'll be away for a few weeks." Michael watched her silently for a moment before smiling. "That's amazing. Chloe. You should go. Chloe felt relieved. Thank you. I just thought you'd want to know first. Michael nodded. I want you to know I'm rooting for you. Always. The sincerity in his voice caught her off guard. Chloe. Michael watched her. Then smiled. That's amazing. Chloe. You should go. Chloe felt relieved. Thank you. I just thought you'd want to know first. I want you to know I'm rooting for you. Always. His sincerity surprised her. Chloe felt a strange warmth in her chest. She kept it to herself. The trip was a big step in Chloe's career. She met famous professionals. Shared her story. Was invited to work with companies from other countries. As she spoke about her projects, she realized that even from afar, Michael's lessons on. Chloe felt a strange warmth in her chest. She kept it to herself. This trip was a big step in her career. She met famous professionals. Shared her story. Was invited to work with companies from other countries. As she spoke about her projects, she realized that Michael's lessons on leadership and vision were present in everything she did. Let's play a game with those who only read the comments. Type pizza in the comments. Only those who made it this far will understand. Now, let's continue with the story. Despite the success, there was a void she couldn't ignore. During silent nights in her hotel room, she thought about Michael. His words. His actions. Even the way he looked at her seemed to always be on her mind. When she returned to the city, Chloe decided to go straight to the Carter Enterprises building. It was late. She knew Michael would probably still be there. Chloe entered Michael's office and found him alone, looking over reports. Michael looked up from the papers and smiled. Surprised. I didn't know you'd be back today. I just got here. Chloe said, closing the door behind her. But I needed to see you. He stood up immediately. Concerned. Is something wrong? Yes, Chloe replied. Her voice slightly trembling. I realized something important while I was away. Michael stayed silent, watching her intently. There was something in his eyes that seemed vulnerable. As if he knew this moment was crucial. What is it? Chloe took a few steps toward him, trying to find the right words. During this trip, I realized how much you've changed. Michael. I realized that you're no longer the arrogant, distant man I met. I realized that no matter how much I tried to fight it, I fell in love with you. The words came out quickly, as if they had waited too long to be said. Michael stood still for a few moments. Seconds. As if he was thinking about what to say. Then he took a step forward, closing the distance between them. Chloe. You have no idea how long I've waited to hear that he said. His voice sounding rough and emotional, she tried to speak. He continued gently holding her hands. That I fell in love with you a long time ago. Since you came into my life. Everything changed. You made me want to be a better person. Made me see that what I was building before had no meaning if it wasn't for something greater. Chloe felt her eyes fill with tears. She didn't look away. Michael. I was afraid. Afraid to trust. To open up. To get hurt again. But now, I don't want. Michael realized how much you've changed. I realize that you're no longer the arrogant, distant man I met. No matter how much I tried to fight it, I fell in love with you. The words came out quickly, as if they had waited too long to be said. Michael stood still for a few seconds. He didn't say another word. Michael leaned in and kissed her. It was a kiss full of emotion. As if they were putting everything they had held back for so long into it. When they finally pulled away, he smiled at her. Chloe. You've transformed me. Not just as a businessman. As a person. I want. Michael. I've changed so much since we met. I used to be arrogant and distant. I've realized that I've fallen in love with you. I want to be your girlfriend. Not just today. For always. Will you be my girlfriend? Chloe laughed. Still emotional. Held his face with her hands. Yes. Michael. I will. In the months that followed, Chloe and Michael began to build something they never imagined, a relationship based on trust. Respect. Love. Michael continued to surprise her with small gestures of affection. While Chloe learned to trust him completely. Together. They started to dream big. Chloe expanded her brand. While Michael delved into social projects and sustainable initiatives inspired by the values she brought into his life. On a special night during. Michael realized how much you've changed. I realize that you're no longer the arrogant, distant man I met. I realized that no matter how much I tried to fight it, I fell in love with you. The words came out quickly. As if they had waited too long to be said. Michael stood still for a few moments. The opening of a new space they had designed together. Michael held Chloe's hand as the crowd applauded them. He looked into her eyes and, with an emotional smile, said, Chloe. You've changed my life in so many ways. I want to build more than just projects with you. I want to build a life. Before she could. You've changed so much. Michael. I realize that you're not the same person I met. I tried to fight it. I fell in love with you. Michael stood still for a few seconds. He then knelt down and opened a small box. Inside was a simple but elegant ring. Will you marry me? Tears filled Chloe's eyes. She didn't hesitate. Yes. Michael. Yes. The wedding was quiet and full of meaning. It was only attended by their closest friends and family. Chloe and Michael. It wasn't just the start of a new. Michael realized how much you've changed. I realize that you're no longer the arrogant, distant man I met. No matter how much I tried to fight it, I fell in love with you. The words came out quickly. As if they had waited too long to be said. Michael stood still for a few seconds. This confirmed that true love can be born from the most unexpected places. As they watched the horizon on their honeymoon, hand in hand, Chloe felt a peace she had never experienced. She knew the future would bring challenges. She was ready to face them. She had learned to love and trust. Do you think Chloe was right to forgive and marry Michael? Leave your opinion in the comments. Rate this story from 0 to 10. What score would you give it? Subscribe to the channel and hit the bell to keep up with all our stories. Check out more exciting stories by clicking here on the end screen.